Yes, and welcome to Mama Juice. I'm so happy that we finally got in touch and got you on.
I'm excited to be here. I love your podcast. I was in the podcast room earlier today, and I was like, this is so awesome. So with
Thank
all
you.
the guests that you've had, on, I'm thankful for the opportunity and that you find my story worthy enough to be on. So thank
Of course, you're a warrior, and I can't wait to share
you.
this with my audience. Why don't you tell us who you are and what we're here to talk about?
Okay, awesome. So my name is James Norris. I'm the founder of Handicapable Fitness, which is a nonprofit that aims to help those with physical challenges get up, get active, and live a fit and active lifestyle despite their disability. And what we aim to do is to help show people that, hey, you're not defined by your disability. And this all started from my own personal fitness journey. It's probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. Um, I worked in radio for 6 years, absolutely loved it. But then I got laid off after moving to California to take a radio job. Got laid off, fell into a depression, gained a bunch of weight, developed some really unhealthy habits, came back to Boston after the year lease was up on the house that I was renting. And I realized because I get around on my knees that I needed to make a change. But I knew nothing about fitness, knew nothing about nutrition. So I literally just joined a commercial gym and would go and do the same workouts every day. And a trainer saw me and he's like, man, you're in here every day. Let me design a program around you, your challenges, and your goals and see what we can do. One thing led to another. Um, and I slowly started to see the weight come off. With that, I developed confidence. And I was literally just taking videos of myself just to show my friends and family across, the country all the things I was doing because everything I was doing was new. My trainer said to me, he's like, well, if you're doing this, he goes, you might want to make a public account because you never know who you could inspire. So that's how Handicapable Fitness, the Instagram and social media presence became to be. Um, and then I took it a step further because I wanted to get back. And in July, we launched the nonprofit that I had spoke about earlier.
Very cool. And so what is the nonprofit like? What are the ins and outs?
Um, so like I said, we just started officially in
Mm,
July, and our goal is to, help bring in money so that we can pay for equipment because adaptive equipment, to get out and do hiking or whatever the case may be, sled hockey equipment, all that stuff is super expensive, and insurance doesn't cover that. So a lot of people have to pay out of pocket for it. So we want to step in and be able to do that and give people the experiences that I and so many other people that are connected to the organization have been able to pursue.
right. And I'm sure that does so much for your mental health, being able to achieve these things. And I'm sure there's so many young people, especially who see other, their peers doing things that they're like, man, like I could do that if I had the right equipment. So, and I think it's a shame that insurance doesn't pay for it. It's like, why would you not? Because it's overall health, it's going to help their mental health, it's going to help their
You're
physical
you're
health.
you're 100% right, and I mean I could get into that a little bit too, but I want to keep it positive. But when you speak about confidence, it's funny because I joined the gym because I needed to lose weight, but now what I tell people is it's exactly that. Um, it it's more of an emotional thing, more of a mental thing to be able to go in there, and it's like your release. And I think one of the biggest things that Handicap Fitness has been able to do and what makes our mission so strong is that we not only want to provide this equipment, but we want to be there to see that light bulb go off in somebody's head when they realize for the first time that they can go out and they can do a Spartan race or they can take a walk on the beach with their family or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, they're no longer identified by their disability. Yes, that disability is a part of them, but that doesn't make up the whole scenario.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really cool. I really love that. And even to people like me who don't have that added challenge, it's inspiring and it almost makes you feel like, man, like I'm not doing enough. It's like I'm not working on my fitness and I don't have that extra hurdle to get over. So in the everyday gym, is is there how do I phrase this? Are there barriers? Are the equipment that they have there, are they not conducive with what you need? Because you were able to achieve it without that, but could they do better, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, 100% they could definitely do better, because most gyms, they are not modified for specific people's needs. And to be honest with you, um, and this isn't every fitness professional or every personal trainer, because the ones that I've been fortunate enough to work with have been, excited to take on this extra challenge of me having a disability. But a lot of people shy away from it because they just don't know how to how to navigate that arena. And so to answer your question, um, most gyms are not handicap accessible or accessible. But I just kind of went in and I kind of watch people and I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of how I do things. How can I mix it up to do that on my own? Yes, they could definitely be more accessible.
It's not perfect, but it gets the job done.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's very motivating to myself and I'm sure to a lot of people.
It's crazy because if you would have came to me 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago and said this is what you're going to be doing, I would have looked at you like you were absolutely crazy because this just was not on the radar. But it's kind of crazy. Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers because all I wanted to do was work in sports radio. And if I did that, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do the things I'm doing now. So,
Right. So is that the job that you got laid off from?
yes. So I worked in Boston radio for 6 years. And then I had the opportunity to move to California to work for a production company. And I was like, okay, cool. I don't know who I'm gonna bump elbows with. Like, who knows? I could be sharing the stage with Ryan Seacrest, but he has every radio job known to man. So that does that that do- that doesn't happen. But you know, so that's the job that I got laid off from, and I was crushed because that was my identity. My identity was sports, but obviously I knew I couldn't play, so I was like, okay, well, what's the next best thing I can do? Oh, I already
Mhm.
talk about sports, so let me get on sports radio and talk about it for a living. So when I wasn't able to do that, I was like, great, what do I do now?
Yeah, and it set the path for this. It's something I actually talk about a lot on my show and also just on my social media, how an event will happen in your life and it feels like the wrong thing. You're like, this is not what I wanted. Like, my dreams are crushed. And then somehow later, you can look back and say, that's why this happened. That gave me
Yes.
chills because it's like true. It's like you were meant to do this and it's not what your plan was, but it's helping people. And it's just like it put you in the right place. And that's just so cool. I love that.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. Would I love to talk sports? Absolutely. But I love mentoring people and I love empowering them and helping them realize that their disability is not necessarily a disability. What it is what we need to do is we need to reframe our mind to see it as a superpower.
Awesome. Very cool. Do you ever do, like, public speakings about it?
Yes, before COVID, I had done some public speaking here locally in Boston, and then I've traveled to New York and New Jersey and did some things with inner city youth. I in the midst of COVID, kind of like when it all kind of got going, and we really didn't know the severity of it. In August, I was invited to Vermont to speak at Joe DeSena's farm, the the CEO of Spartan, to speak to some inner city youth, young men, and share my story, and that was great.
Did you growing up have anybody in your life that helped you in the way that you're now helping other kids?
You know what? My family really, um, lifted me up, and they never let me use my disability as a crutch. You know, in fact, I always tell people, they pushed me almost harder because they didn't want me to use that as like my way out, my escape. And then, you know, as I've gone through in my fitness journey, different trainers that I've had have really poured into me and given me knowledge and been able to help me pass things along to other people.
Very cool. I actually have a friend. She is a mom of 5. I always forget, 5, 6. She has a lot of kids, but they were all through foster to adopt. And she got a little baby and, as he developed, they noticed like, oh, like this isn't working, what's going on? And I always wonder, is it cerebral palsy or cerebral palsy?
You can say either one.
Okay, so it's just preference. So they ended up getting a diagnosis, and I mean, she's such a rock star mom with him too. It's just like you were saying. I feel like she never she never treats him different than the other kids. She never lets him lean on that and be like, "Oh, I can't do that." Like she pushes him to be the best version of himself that he can be. And I mean, as a parent, that's what we want to do to all of our children, but I think sometimes, I don't have children with a disability, but if I did, I feel like that would be hard for me because even when I see my children who don't have disabilities struggle, I just want to be like, let me do that for you, you know?
Yep,
So
yep.
I feel like as a mother, you really have to tap into that strength to be like, okay, you have to let him get there on his own.
I love that, and that story that you shared about that young person, that really rings a bell with me because I was born quote unquote normal. Then, when I was about 1.5, went in for a hernia operation, and it was during that hernia operation, the mask came off my face. My brain was without air for 5.5 minutes, which caused the cerebral palsy. But the thing is, the doctors didn't say anything to my parents. My parents just brought me home. Okay, he's healed. He's good. He's ready to go. And then over time, they realized that I wasn't hitting certain milestones. And being here in Boston, they called up Children's Hospital and they're like, "We think something's up. Can we make an appointment?" And shortly thereafter, that's when they diagnosed me with the cerebral palsy. And that's another part of what I want to do is I want to be an advocate for not only not only the handicapable person or the handicapable athlete, but also the parents. Because let's face it, as a mom, there's no handbook to being a parent. Then you throw special needs on top of that, that really throws that really throws most people for a loop. So if I can take my own personal experiences and say, "Hey, this is what worked for me. This is the services that are provided in schools for this. You might want to look into this." That's also what I want to do as well.
Perfect. Yeah, that's wonderful because like you said, it's hard to navigate and it's very overwhelming. I mean, there have just been even services like speech therapy that I've wanted to look into for my children. And even something like that was so hard to navigate. I can't imagine because I know, there's neurologists they have to see, they go to physical therapy, OT, all these different services. So I think you hit it right on the head. I think parents need that support as well to figure out the system and know what's out there because the sad part is nobody tells you, like nobody, your doctor's not like, oh, hey, like there's this program or there's this opportunity for your child. So you kind of have to just find it.
It's almost like they don't want to see you succeed because if if people aren't aware of the resources, they're always going to be coming back, which means they're always going to be lining their pockets. Um,
Yeah.
you know, and if we're open and we're honest about, hey, this is what's out there, then all of a sudden, you know, the mighty dollar gets taken away. And the other thing is, like you were talking about with the speech therapy, and having to jump through those hoops of, okay, go see this specialist, okay, go see that one. you know, the school pays for that. So so they want to dot their I's and cross their T's because they don't want to have to pay for it. So they're using everything in their disposal to say, okay, well, we don't have to do that.
Right. And yeah, I mean, healthcare is a business in the United States. So that's definitely something that, I have high hopes that we'll move in a different direction eventually because it shouldn't be. Our health and our lives and our well-being should definitely not be something people make money off of, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That said, though, I want to put a positive spin on it. There's a lot of great organizations and a lot of
Yes,
people that are doing amazing work and that have helped so many different people. So, definitely want to spotlight them.
absolutely. And you're one of them. Yeah. So then what, I mean, obviously it's person to person depending on the person's situation, but what is like a key word of advice that you would give to a family who has a child that they're raising with cerebral palsy? And then what would you tell that young person?
Oh, this I love this question. Um, and there's so many layers to it.
Mhm.
I would say, treat that child just like you would anybody else. Give them that unconditional love and encourage them and push them to get out there. And I understand, you know, us as parents or the parent culture is we want to coddle our children and we don't want to expose them to the failure. But you know what? I'm gonna be blunt here. The parents aren't going to be around forever, so they need to learn how to advocate for themselves and kind of fall on their face a little bit. And you can be there to pick them up and just keep going, um, but really expose them to as many different things and as many different opportunities as as you can because they will overcome and they will adapt to their said situation.
Right. Right. And so you love sports. Have you ever did you play sports growing up or that was that available to you?
I did play what they call challenger T-ball in basketball. So basically it's a a T-ball team that has everybody has some sort of physical challenge. And it was great. It served its purpose, but I came home and I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I don't want to do that anymore." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "Because my team won 4-2, and every week it always ends in a tie. And it was never really competitive enough for me. But as I've gotten into my adult years, I've actually done two different Spartan races. For those who are unaware of what Spartan is, it's an obstacle course racing organization. So I did one that was 3.5 miles through the desert, 21 different obstacles. Um, and I did it in a wheelchair that you pump with your arms. So that was pretty crazy. I also rock climb, I ski. So I try to stay as active as possible when it comes to sports.
Right, and that probably helps you, right? Because part of cerebral palsy is you want to strengthen your muscles.
Oh yeah. So anything fitness and moving and functioning, I'm all about because not only does it help me look better, but you're right. It goes back to that old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So
Yeah.
and that's especially the case with cerebral palsy.
It was really a pleasure meeting you.
It was great meeting you. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, and I'll see you in Clubhouse.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
So that's it for today. That was really cool. I like that. I love what he's doing, and I'm definitely going to link everything below so that you guys can check it out. I think even if you don't have a child with a disability, just being aware of their challenges and what's out there for them. You just never know. Like I had a friend who ended up with a child who has cerebral palsy, and now I have this contact and I can maybe help her. And I think it's important for us mothers who don't experience that to not only be knowledgeable because it can shape how you interact with a mother who does. You can teach your children more about it because I think the reason that in previous years people maybe got fun of or treated differently. It's just a lack of knowledge, it's just ignorance to it. So if we are educated and our children are educated, then it can only mean good things. So if you enjoyed this content, please be sure to subscribe because together is a beautiful place to be.